Good afternoon, everyone. One of the things that I'm going to try and do is start my meetings on time so as we can get to the business of city business. Thank you all for coming. For those of you who do not know, I am Christine King, your Commissioner for District 5, and today we are here to discuss redistricting in the city of Miami, and particularly in our community, District 5. We're going to have a Q&A afterward. Attorney Miguel de Grande is going to present the proposed plan for District 5. We are required to do this by law. Pursuant to our census, the census provided that our districts are unevenly balanced. And as a requirement of federal law, we are required to balance the city of Miami's districts. So that is why we are here today. I'd like to first introduce my staff to you, for those of you who have not met them. And this light is blinding, so I can't see my staff. My Chief of Staff, Yvette Harrell, is here. But I don't. Hi, Zico. So good to see you. Where is my staff? Okay, so my Chief of Constituent Affairs, Mr. Quincy Cohen, is here. And, they didn't get the assignment that I start on time. So perhaps I will introduce them after the presentation because I don't want to keep you too long. So I'm going to introduce now Mr. Miguel de Grande, and he is going to present. And for our neighbors who are viewing this via web, there's some issue here. So they're recording it, and you'll be able to view it on YouTube later with the same link. Apologies to my guests that I said they could view it online versus actually coming to attend the meeting. My Chief of Staff has walked in, Miss Yvette Harrell. Attorney Yvette Harrell. We work hard for that few letters behind our name. Christina Gonzalez, who is there taking my picture, is my liaison for the Upper East Side and Wynwood communities. So that would be Belmead, Palm Grove, the historic Bayside, which is my neighborhood, Belmead Island, and the Wynwood area. And I don't see any more of my staff. Donald Douglas is here, who represents the Liberty City community and the Overtown community, and Kassan, who is the face of my office. When you go there, she's the first person that you will see. The most in-demand person in my office is Miss Elenice Ford, better known as Elo. She is the one that you speak to if you want to have a meeting with me. So she's very in demand. But I'd also like to announce Constituent Tuesday, where you can come and meet with me without having an appointment the first Tuesday of every month. This month I will be at the offices of the Overtown CRA from 9 to 5. It's from 9 to 12, then I take a break, and then from 2 to 4:30 would be my last meeting, so as I don't cut anybody short. But that's an opportunity where you can come and speak to me about whatever you want to speak to me about without having to have an appointment. Not if you're a developer, or not if you need more than 15 minutes. This is intended for my constituency to come, say hello, introduce yourself, and tell me what's going on in your neighborhood. And I saw Commissioner Hardiman walk in, who shares our district, the Miami-Dade County Commissioner. And as I promised, this young man and I will work together to serve our community. And we have thus far. We are going to have banners along MLK Boulevard of Dr. King, which has never been done before, has it? Never. It's never been done in our community. So we will grace MLK Boulevard with Dr. King's image with banners. It's going to be so beautiful. And he's going to do the county side of the street, and I'm doing the city side. So I'm very encouraged about that. And we're also working on some other things to improve our district together. And I'm very proud of the relationship that we have. Is there anybody else? I miss anyone? Nope. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. De Grande so he can present, and then we will have a Q&A afterward.
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you, Commissioner Hardin, for being here. My name is Miguel de Grande. I'm blinded by the light, so, bear with me. I have been practicing law for 40 years. I was a former member of the Florida House of Representatives, which is actually how I got involved in redistricting when we did the redistricting 1990 cycle of the Florida legislature. We actually ended up suing the Florida legislature for violations of the Voting Rights Act. We put together a group of plaintiffs that included Hispanics, African Americans. The NAACP joined us, League of Women Voters, Common Cause. We were successful in basically getting a court to reject the proposed plan of the legislature. Up to then, there had not been, in 100 years since Reconstruction, an African American elected to Congress as a result of the plan that we advocated, litigated for, and won. We enjoy a diverse representation with 3 African American commissioners in our delegation, as well as increase the Hispanic representation in the congressional delegation. So that's kind of developed as a specialty for me. It's not something you do every day. It's something you do every 10 years. As you could see, I've been doing it for a long time, as evidenced by my gray hair. Now, there's a lot of lawyers that love to talk with fancy words so that they can show how intelligent they are. I'm not one of those lawyers. So I'm going to try to start with the basics and try to simplify what is a very complex project. Now, first we start with the census. Every 10 years, the Constitution mandates that the United States government take a census of the population. I assume, let's see a show of hands, did any one of you not participate in the census? Okay, so that's good, because actually there, in my opinion, was an undercount in the census in the city of Miami as a result of multiple factors, one being COVID, which affected the whole nation, but also we have a lot of folks that are recent arrivals, both from Caribbean countries, from Latin American countries, that may be shy about being actually counted and show their existence in our country. So unfortunately, we have a small undercount. And that affects us because at the end of the day, federal dollars flow down to districts based on population. So every 10 years, we take the census. The population numbers are then reported to the state, to the counties, and to all the cities. According to the 2020 census, the city's population grew by 10.7% and is now 442,241 as of the taking of the census on April of 2020. But some districts in the city of Miami grew more than other districts. And redistricting is precisely about equalizing the population among the different districts. Indeed, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution requires district populations to be substantially equal. And why is that? Well, let me give you an example. Say you have District 1 that has 50 residents and District 2 has 100 residents. So in District 1, if you live in District 1, you only have to put together 26 votes, a majority of 50 to elect your representative. But if you live in District 2, you need 51 people to elect a representative. And so the vote of the people in District 2 carries less weight and is less relevant than the vote of the people in District 1, because District 1 takes less people to achieve a result than it does in District 2. The courts have said that violates the 14th Amendment of the Constitution and the principle of one man, one vote, and equal representation. And so the first step to work in redistricting is to determine what should be the ideal population for each district. Now, the ideal population is easy to calculate. The ideal population is basically you take the entire population of the city and you divide it by the number of districts, in this case 5 districts. And so if you do that, the ideal population for the city in terms of district population is 88,448. So again, what is the problem and why do we need redistricting? Well, we need redistricting because in the city of Miami, some districts, particularly one district, grew astronomically compared to the other districts. Now, District 5, for example, at the taking of the census, was approximately 6% under the ideal population. But District 2, which is the coastal district that runs through the whole, coast, the Bay Area of the city of Miami, is 32% over the ideal population. Now, there's case law that tells us that, the courts will allow some deviation in population, as long as there's a rational basis and explanation for why that deviation occurs. But the bright lines that the courts have set up is that you cannot have more than an overall 10% deviation. Now, what is an overall deviation? An overall deviation is also simple to calculate. What you do basically is wow, when I'm here I can actually see. What you do basically is you take the district with the lowest population, and in this case that was District 3, with a little under 10% under the ideal, and you take the district with the highest overpopulation, that's District 2, with 32%, and you add those two numbers. Those two numbers give you an overall deviation of plus 42%. That means that the plan is malapportioned. The plan violates constitutional principles of one man, one vote, and therefore this current district plan cannot be used for any future election. Thus, we have to redistrict to balance the population. Now, apart from the constitutional requirements and mandates to equalize population, you have to look at the demographics of each district to determine whether the Voting Rights Act applies in how you design that district. Now, there's a lot of talk about, oh my God, they overruled the Voting Rights Act, et cetera. That's not true. There was a Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act that was overturned by the Supreme Court. Section 2 is still alive and well and is still applicable to redistricting. And what does Section 2 tell you? Section 2 tells you that if there is a minority community that is sufficiently compact, means that you don't have to go and find little fingers everywhere to try to put together population, sufficiently compact, sufficiently large enough, and cohesive. And what does cohesive mean? Cohesive means that people tend to gravitate around the same issues, vote for the same issues, for the same candidates, etc. So if you have a population, a minority population that is compact, cohesive, and large enough to form a majority in a single-member district, the Voting Rights Act applies. And you have to draw that district in a fair manner, otherwise the courts will overturn your decision. Now, when you analyze District 5, when we started, had a majority African-American population. And let me take a step back, because I had an interesting conversation with one of the gentlemen that was here about who is a minority. Now, in Miami-Dade County, quite frankly, the minority are white, non-Hispanic individuals, okay? But for Voting Rights Act purposes, minorities are defined, and they're defined as racial minorities or ethnic minorities. And so the Voting Rights Act protects the rights of African-American citizens and Hispanic citizens to be able to elect the candidates of their choice. When you analyze District 5 clearly meets the criteria of the Voting Rights Act. Therefore, it must be drawn in a manner that provides the African-American community an equal opportunity to elect a candidate of its choice. So to recap, the districts must be substantially equal in population and must be fair in terms of how they are drawn with regard to the minority community's ability to participate in the political process. Now, on top of that, again, we have the 14th Amendment we have to comply with, we have the Voting Rights Act that we have to comply with, but on top of that, the Commission also gave us additional directives. These directives are usually called traditional redistricting principles. And those are things that the court says, okay, look, if you have a deviation, but you did the deviation and it's small enough and it's for a reason that furthers a governmental interest or that has a rational basis, then that's okay. And there are accepted traditional redistricting principles. One of them, for example, that the Commission directed us to use in designing the plans is to keep the core and configuration as much as possible of the existing districts. Now, what does that mean? It is accepted in the case law that there is an important objective in avoiding voter confusion and disruption. And so wherever possible, it's appropriate to say, let's try to keep as many folks in District 5 as are already in District 5. To the extent you have to move some folks to comply with the 14th Amendment, to equalize population, yes, you do that, but you have to try to keep the core of the constituency within each district. And we did that. Districts other than District 2, which I'll discuss in a moment, that only kept 80% of the population, all of the districts kept 90% plus of their constituency. Now, District 2 could not, because as a result of the mandate of the 14th Amendment, I had to figure out how to move 28,000 people into other districts, okay? And some of those people went into District 5. We moved basically, and you all have the handout, and I'll talk more in detail about that in a moment, but we basically did several things in District 5. One, we moved the boundary eastward, about 2 or 3 streets, going down all the way to pretty much the river. We did a little reconfiguration at the top end between District 1 and District 5 to basically trade off 2 areas of population. And we actually took some population out of District 5. Yes, ma'am. No, unfortunately, I wasn't told to bring the AV presentation, so that's why I'm describing them. Yeah, I know. But each one of you has that handout, and I'll speak to that handout. So We actually, the third thing we did was we took some population out of the bottom of District 5 that borders the river. Why did we do that? Well, we did that to move that population into District 1, which is a majority Hispanic population, because that area was overwhelmingly Hispanic. So it was appropriate to move that area, again, from the point of view of communities of interest and voter cohesion, into a district that had a majority Hispanic population. Now, we ended up with our preliminary plan, which this is the second iteration of the plan. Our preliminary plan brought down the deviation from 42% to 3.8%, okay? But there were some things that the commission still wanted us to do. They wanted us to restore some areas that I had moved initially into other districts, and there was a lot of talk from constituents in Coconut Grove about reducing the number of individuals that we have moved out of the south part of US 1, the Grove area, into other districts to equalize population. And that was about 6,300 folks. In this revised plan, we've been able to reduce that to less than 3,000 folks. But still, that caused an increase in the overall deviation, because I had brought down District 2 to basically almost the exact ideal population, almost a zero deviation, but having reduced the population that I took out of the Grove and having reduced some population at the edge of District 1 in order to restore the MRC back into District 5, that caused an increase in the deviation of District 2 to 5.46, and District 5 remains the lowest deviation at negative 2.14. So our deviation is now 7.6% compared to the 3.8 we had done in the preliminary plan, but it complies fully with the 14th Amendment mandate based on the fact that all those changes had a rational basis. Now, other highlights of the preliminary plan. It includes 4 districts where minority residents have an equal opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. 3 districts are majority Hispanic. 1 district, District 5, is majority African American. Let me go to some of the particular statistics on District 5. If you look at your handout, District 5 now has a total population of 86,578 residents. And again, the ideal was a little higher than that, so it is 2.14% under in terms of deviation. There are approximately 8,310 single-race white residents, and again, that's based on self-identification. In the census, you identify yourself as either mixed race, a particular race, ethnicity, etc. So these are the data that is produced by the census. 45,182 black residents, which constitute 52.19% of the population, and 34,571 Hispanic residents, which is almost 40% of the population. The revised plan preserves 91.59% of the existing population of the district. Now, voting age population is something we also look at. There's a difference between total population that includes every human being, including children, and voting age population, which are the folks that can participate in the political process. The voting age population of the district was 68,734, with 7,243, or approximately 10.5%, single-race white VAP, 34,551, or 50.27%, African-American VAP, and 27,929, or 40.6% Hispanic VAP. We looked also at issues of voter cohesion, which was part of the mandate by the City Commission. And voter cohesion means that as you're moving population from one place into a district, you want to find people that are, if at all possible, of like mind politically, that tend to vote for the same issues, that tend to care about the same things. And so we look, for example, to see comparatively how a district performs based on how that district performed in different elections. We just put two here, although we analyzed many others, the vote for the presidential election as well as the vote for the last gubernatorial election. The areas that we put into D5 in order to equalize population had very similar voting patterns to the existing residents of D5. Now, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. What do you mean, how does that affect Little Haiti? Yeah, Little Haiti was not moved. Little Haiti remains in the district. Yes.
What was reduced in District 5? That's my question.
Reduced in District 5, meaning taken out of District 5, it was the bottom edge of District 5 that borders with District 1.
Okay. Can you describe it by street?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Here, hold on. It includes Spring Garden. Let me describe it for you. Okay, the area that we took out of District 5 is from, if you start at the Miami River and the Dolphin Expressway, you go northeast to 7th Avenue, south to Northwest 8th Street, east to the 95, south to the 95 to the Miami River, and then northwest on the Miami River all the way to the point of origin. So there was basically a triangle that went west and bordered on District 1. We took that area, which was overwhelmingly Hispanic in population, and put that into District 1. Other questions?
So this is the area with the Wharf and Garcia's Seafood?
That's correct.
Okay. That's no longer in District 5.
No, no changes have been made as yet, and I have instructed him to put back the area with the MRC.
Which is back.
It's back?
Yes.
Okay, yes, we're not going to lose the area with the MRC. And the majority of District 5 remains untouched because of all of the things that he said to you. It would be odd and out of place to affect Little Haiti because Little Haiti is surrounded by the Upper East Side, Liberty City, Overtown. So we can't just cut into Little Haiti. So Little Haiti remains the same. And for the most part, the entire district remains as it is. We have to gain. We shouldn't lose because we're underpopulated, correct?
Correct.
That was my next thing, just being underpopulated. What's the
gain?
correct?
The gain is south of 36th Street, correct?
Gain in terms of what?
Adding to the district. We
Yes.
have currently the north side of 36th Street, Moore Park, and I've asked for the south side of 36th Street, a portion of that, correct?
Correct.
And what else did we gain?
You gained basically, looking at the border, and let me get you specific
I
streets.
apologize. We were supposed to have a whole presentation. I'm not sure where the disconnect went because I need to see the map as well, and I don't know how whoever
Okay.
didn't understand the assignment for that. But we're here. We're going to make the best of it.
I'll take the blame. Well, the water portion you're talking about. Yes.
Right. We're purple. District 5 is purple, correct?
That's correct.
District 5 is purple. The proposed area that he's presenting is purple on your handout.
Green is District 1. The lighter green in the bottom is District 3. And the district to the east, that's like kind of a beige, brownish color, is District 2. Now, in terms of the water, so that you understand, those are the legal limits of the city of Miami. And so the software program, when you apply and try to assign different areas to different districts, the software program will automatically include the water. East of Biscayne, the border, the north border remains the same.
Would-
Morningside remains in District 2.
Okay, got it, that's what I meant, okay. I'm still in District 5.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. You were saying that we gained District 5, moved up, you gained, but you took away at the bottom because they were Hispanic?
Right.
Why?
Because we have to maintain the core of the district. Right now, District 5 is 51% African American. You're on the border of losing that. And the reality of what's happening in District 5 is that I may very well be the last black elected official.
That's what I'm talking about.
So he had to give up some of the district, and our numbers are very tenuous. Now, we're a heavily populated Democratic district. So everyone that's Morningside, for example. Morningside is a heavily Democratic district, but it's not a black neighborhood. So while we would still be Democratic, you may lose the black seat. And that is the instruction that he was given by me to keep our community intact,
Precisely.
so that you will continue to have a representative, a black representative for District 5.
To answer your question also, as I said, we had to play around the borders and basically, work one way, work the other. You'll see, for example, and if you look at your handout, if you look towards the bottom of District 5, you'll see that, there's a straight line on Northeast 2nd that goes down, and then there's a little jut that juts and juts back, okay? Those were buildings with high population of folks that were not African American. And so if I would have kept that line going straight down and included those folks, I would have less deviation, but I would go under 50% voting age population and African American voting age population. So, and that's the same rationale by which we took part of the existing bottom of the district and moved it into a Hispanic district, because that was close to, I think it was 67% Hispanic. And so basically, I trade a piece here, I gain a piece there, I tailor around the edges and got it up to over 50% African American voting age population. Other questions?
Alyssa?
Hi, good evening. I have a question with regard to, I guess, your rules that you use, your criteria that you use, and I would like to understand if there's any thought given to what will transpire or if you're using existing criteria, meaning there is a mass amount of development that will occur very shortly in District 5 that is going on, that will be completed shortly, all sorts of moving around. How has that been taken into consideration? Because that's greatly going to affect us.
Well, twofold. As the commissioner noted, based on the population growth patterns and based on gentrification, et cetera, one effect is to affect the percentage of minority population. The other thing that we did to try to, from now a 14th Amendment perspective, is we anticipate that D5 will experience more growth, and so we intentionally underpopulated it. So if I would have gone and found another 1,600 people to move into District 5, number one, again, it would probably dilute the African American percentage, but also that didn't make sense for District 5 because, again, that district is going to experience growth in the next decade.
So I guess I'm not fully understanding. How do we ensure that the population does not become a minority with the growth? I apologize, but I'm not fully understanding your answer. You're intentionally underpopulating, but we have a high possibility that there will not be a majority minority in the future, in the very short future.
That's not his question to answer.
Okay,
That-
that's what I'm trying to determine.
That is
if
the
there's
that is the responsibility of me. That's my responsibility. I have to be thoughtful and considerate with the developments that are proposed for our community. I have to ensure that we mitigate the effects of gentrification by allowing persons who live in our district to remain in our district through housing efforts, affordable housing efforts, and what that looks like in rental properties, in homeownership opportunities. I'm having a homeownership workshop here in April, but that is the responsibility, that is my responsibility to ensure that we give as many opportunities to persons, minority persons in our district that these developments are coming for. So I have to ensure that I am cognizant about what our community looks like today and what our community will look like tomorrow and years to come. So that is on my radar, and I am working diligently to ensure that persons in our district, that African Americans have an opportunity for home ownership, and that we also have opportunities to remain in our home. And that's one of the initiatives that the Little Haiti Revitalization Trust will put forth, with the money that comes into the trust from those community benefits, to make sure that our community thrives with those dollars. So that's not really his call, because he can only deal with what is happening today. He can't deal with future perspective. He can only deal with where we are today. But that is on my radar, and I am sensitive to that.
And to add, if I may, to what the commissioner said, that is exactly what can be done. As the commissioner said, from a redistricting perspective, I have to deal with constraints. And one constraint, again, is I can't go over a 10% overall deviation. So, for example, I can't say I'm going to leave District 5 at 15% under to anticipate that growth and to make sure that still there's a concentration of minority community that is viable to elect a candidate of choice. I can't do that constitutionally. And so I can only play with the limited constraints and parameters that I'm given under the 14th Amendment. The rest, as the Commissioner well said, are policy decisions that need to be made by the elected officials.
Any other questions?
I have a question. I think this is for the commissioner. He mentioned that, I'm right here, sorry.
Here, I'm sorry,
Oh,
we're
'cause
just
we can't
blind.
see with this.
Oh, sorry.
Uh-huh.
My name is Katia St. Fleur. I am a sitting council person in Miami Shores. I really just had a question about the census numbers. There seems to be a consensus that there was an undercount. Is the community or are the elected officials pushing for a recount? That's for the commissioner.
No, we are not.
Okay.
I don't even know if we can push for, can we?
I could tell you that you can issue a challenge. I could tell you it rarely ever succeeds, because you would basically have to go and do your own census, you know, and not the whole city, but say, for example, you know, you took 5 random 5-block areas, and you did a full census on that, and your numbers were 10% higher. That may give you something, but first of all, you know, in terms of being able to prove that's a real 10%, well, the snapshot in time of the census was in April of 2020. And so if you go into a 5-block area now in 2022 and find a higher population, how do you prove that that population was there in 2020? So the answer is you can legally, you have the ability to lodge a challenge. Functionally, it's a waste of time.
Possible, but not probable.
Right.
My name is
Mr. Julius?
Stanley
Mr.
Prevost.
Stanley.
Yes, I'm Julius's father. It appears to me that it would be difficult. It would be difficult to catch up with the rate of what we call extension of development and the rate of possibly increasing single-family housing. Can you give me an idea as to what strategy you can use to make these two movements compatible, or at least giving an edge to the existing single-family units?
What I am proposing is to build single-family homes, which we're doing already in the Overtown CRA district, build single-family homes and offer those homes to first-time home buyers in our community. The housing market has exploded. It is unaffordable for an average person to purchase a home in the city of Miami now. I would like to take some of the Miami Forever Bond money set aside for affordable housing and hold second mortgages so that persons can afford to be first-time home buyers. I met a young lady while I was campaigning. She made approximately $50,000 working full-time. She couldn't qualify to buy a home. $345,000, I believe, is the average for a single-family home today. You can't afford that, a single parent, even though you make a decent living. So that is one of the initiatives that I'd like to see to create home ownership for families like herself. Any other questions?
This is just a general question. The population in historic Overtown has shifted quite rapidly over the past 5 years. And I think some of our data says it's 44% Hispanic now and 56 African American. And I'm wondering how you see that impact of demographics on the voting population, and how do you see that population shifting what Overtown will look like maybe in the next, it's shifted over the past 5 years so dramatically. Do we see the community shifting in terms of the Hispanic population? And will that impact the votes and housing?
It will. That's happening all over, particularly in Overtown. You see it. It's happening all over. The new developments that are going up, people are coming in. Now, we have to contend with the law, the Fair Housing Act, so we can't deny anyone that is qualified to move into these developments. We can't do that, and I'm not suggesting that by any means. But we do have to educate our community, and we do have to hold these developers to their promises to provide affordable housing. And we have to get the word out. We have to educate our community. In my previous life as the president CEO of MLK EDC, we were a co-developer. We were a co-developer on a project, affordable housing development project on 62nd Street, MLK Boulevard. And in recruiting, what they didn't do before, but I required, was that we advertised in the Miami Times. Duh. You know, it's not a foreign concept, but if you want our folks to have an opportunity to get into these affordable housing, you got to advertise in the medium in which they read. And we did outreach, so I'm going to require that as well. But it's a community effort. It's my effort to educate and inform District 5 through my newsletter quarterly that's mailed to you, through my digital newsletter that you'll get monthly. Come to meet with me on Constituent Tuesdays. I will get the information to you. What you do with the information, again, but share it with everybody. Share it with your family, your friends, and we will make a difference. And that's how we start. It's a grassroots effort that we have to be the solution to what's going on. And we have to give real opportunities to folks in our community.
Any other questions? Sure.
Is there any practical application?
Now, while they're bringing the mic to you, if I may, Madam Chair, again, my apologies. That's my bad. We're in the process of preparing a PowerPoint presentation for Friday's commission meeting. My co-consultant, Steve Cody, did not have that ready at this time, but I do want to tell you, on Friday, we have a special meeting before the City Commission. We will be presenting more detail of every one of the districts in a PowerPoint presentation. You could see it on, Miami TV. You could also request make a public records request. We provided a 32-page report on the plan to the City Commission. The clerk of the board will have copies of that. They're happy to send you an electronic copy. And again, I urge you to, watch and participate if you want in person in the special meeting convened by the chair and the commissioners on Friday, at which we will be presenting in detail each one of the districts, each one of the movements we made into the different districts, the demographics of those areas that we moved from one to the other. So it will be a very detailed presentation, and you could either come in person to City Hall or watch it on Miami TV. Sir?
Hi, yes, please. Is there any practical impact of the redistricting other than voter allocation? Is there a budgetary impact with the monies that are allocated to the district?
Not from my perspective, but the commissioner can address that.
No. And for the most part, District 5 is remaining intact. We're gaining. We're not losing. Like I said, he was trying to cut out portions of the district, the MRC, which would be financially viable for District 5 with taxes and that kind of thing. So I said no to that. But it shouldn't have a financial impact on the district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may, Madam Chair, the other thing that the commissioner mentioned which needs to be emphasized, is that there have been no changes at this time. This is our presentation of a revised plan to the commission. It is not my providence. You know, when I was elected to the legislature, I made decisions. Now I follow instructions. And so I have prepared a revised plan. It is up to the commission to debate the plan, to vote for or against the plan, and to ask for additional changes if they see that those changes are needed. But as the commissioner said, there is no change at this time. This is a proposal that the commission will vet and ultimately decide whether to accept, modify, et cetera.
Hi. Yes, I just have a question about the advertising and the educating the community. So I received a link to log in. I had to travel from, like, on my bike, so the link didn't work. I got another link, and another link didn't work.
It's not working. It worked on the trial basis they did a couple of days ago, but after this meeting, you'll be able to watch it on YouTube, but you can't see it live.
Okay, so it will be recorded.
It is being recorded right now, so your question will be on the.
Okay, awesome. I just
Yes.
want to make sure that it's a small matter, but it's a big
No,
deal.
no. I wanted to be able to reach as many people as I possibly could, but technical difficulties which occurred right this second. Everything worked fine 2 days ago, and then they get here and it's not working. So it's close to 7 o'clock, so we're going to take our last question if we have any more. Hold on a second, because we won't be able to hear you on the recording.
You spoke briefly about home ownership. What about housing for the seniors? Because some of the apartments, when they qualify to get in, it start at one rate, and the next thing you know, the cost for the apartment is super, super high, and their income is very low. Because that's something, when I volunteered for Shine under the Alliance for Aging, a lot of people will call about that. So what are we doing in the district in reference to having affordable apartments for seniors?
Well, that is addressed through what AMI is used and what percentages. Is it 50%, 60%? Right now, the city of Miami has to use Miami-Dade County's AMI versus city of Miami AMI, and that's starkly different. So I'm trying to get across that the county's AMI doesn't work for us, and that's where those increases that you talk about, that's how you see them. And I see that because my father lives on a fixed income. He can't afford to have a rental increase every year, every 2 years. He can't afford it because his Social Security doesn't increase commensurate with what is happening. So that is something that I'm addressing, and I'll need your support to help me get legislation through. But it's various levels. It's not just on a city level. It's various level, because these developments, they get funding from the federal government, and it's required. So it's a big hurdle that we have to cross to make that more equitable for our seniors. So if there are no more questions about redistricting, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank everyone for coming. Again, we're having a special meeting with respect to redistricting, and it will be the proposal for the entire city of Miami, all of the districts, not just District 5. You're welcome to attend live at City Hall, or that meeting is always live streamed so that you can continue to remain informed. But this is, for the most part, where we're going. I don't think I'll be making many more changes, but any changes that I do make will be on behalf of our district and for the betterment of our district. So thank you all for coming.